What brought us all here? What are we seeking? And what might we find? For over 20 years, I identified exclusively as a full-time professional actor. My first film role was in 1997 at the age of 17 in Omaha, Nebraska, if you can believe it. My ego, income, past, and imagined future were integrally tied to this self-identity. In 2018, I completed the best television role of my career. And at the time, I believed it was just the beginning of my next great acting chapter and journey. It was, in fact, my career apex. And the emotional and psychological freefall I experienced after it was severe. For 3 years, spanning 2019 to 2021, I was unemployed as an actor. I suffered from the traditional but real male construct of being a failed provider for my wife and my young son. I lost my creative outlet and my perceived social status. My ego imploded. My wife, who you should know supports me in sharing this, she and I discovered that we could not have a second child, a possibility I had never considered as the middle of 5 siblings and as a dad who is just like so baby crazy. Amidst all of this, COVID happened, and I turned 40 years old. It was as if all of my dreams and goals, which had previously been so firmly within my grasp, were stripped away from me. And what remained was a devastating depression and an existential, spiritual despair. I had, in my own eyes, astoundingly become a failure, and I did not understand how. In the summer of 2021, amidst an annual retreat I take with my oldest and dearest friends, I experienced a transcendent epiphany and a profound emotional release from which emerged a life-altering discovery. Yes, the procreating aspect of my life was now over, which meant, very sadly and with grief, that I would never again experience the divine nearness I so loved about shepherding my infant son into this world. But in its place, I was now free to turn my attention to the other great mystery of my existence, death. And I vowed that day to grow into the knowledge of my own death as a purpose-making enterprise for the rest of my living days, and if possible, to help others do the same. In the study, Reframing Resilience, which focuses on how and why emerging spiritual leaders are prone to either flourish or languish amidst the stressors of such an all-in caring profession, one of the core indicators for long-term self-care success was the ability to engender a personal, transformative experience. Please now, if you would, settle into whatever position of comfort feels right to you in your body as you absorb this article's definition of a transformative experience. Okay, here goes. A transformative experience is a highly memorable period of minutes or hours through which persons find themselves immediately, dramatically, and permanently changed, usually by surprise, involving significant shifts in spirituality, personality, self-identity, perceptions of reality, and emotional life. These experiences emerge as the evolving individual adapts to changes, usually unexpected, stressful life events. But transformative experiences can also be intentionally elicited through meditation, prayer, ritual, and aesthetic experiences and social events hinging on connection with others. As I welcome you back, I'll remind you first that transformative experiences aren't just for seminarians. Have you ever had one by this definition? Do you remember what brought it on? Do you remember what changed as a result? When I came across this study, I absolutely lit up, knowing as I do how transformative experiences have literally saved my life. My aforementioned epiphany, which led to a new construct of myself, a new framing of my life trajectory, a new purpose and meaning to my existence, all the while opening me to the healing vulnerability of being supported by my wife, which has deepened our partnership and evolved our identities, freeing us from stereotypes of what a father or mother or parent should be. This transformative experience has improved my entire state of being and exploded my sense of what can be contained within the breadth of a human life. What factors indicate whether or not a transformative experience might be waiting for a person on the other side of a setback, of an unexpected, stressful life event? A sobering, though not surprising, discovery in the resiliency study was that the languishing class, the ones least prone to demonstrate long-term resiliency in the face of stressors, seems consistent with their more marginalized demographic profile, with them more likely to identify as younger, more liberal, non-heterosexual, female, and non-evangelical. Remember, religious seminarian study, but also note the faith. Race was curiously not mentioned in the study, though I consider it assumed. The authors found that, quote, the flourishing were least likely to identify as marginalized on each of the demographic indicators, suggesting the availability of resources. In essence, privileged identities have, on average, greater access to supportive life resources. And the security of material resources facilitates life situations that protect us, as I am a part of that privileged class, against the worst effects of anxiety and burnout. For marginalized subgroups, their relative lack of security leaves them more vulnerable and less likely to flourish over time. Okay, but what was it about my transformative experience that day that was potentially universal to all of us? Well, I had the requisite changes and unexpected stressful life events. I was in a social event hinging on connection with others. It was full of rituals and traditions that amplified the bonds that are unique to my group. It was also a calming space, a safe space where I knew I could be vulnerable and open with a trusted community around me. It was a gathering that provoked and encouraged deep thinking and deep sharing. It was an expansive space that yearn to hold whatever ideas or emotions or sufferings or joys were brought in at any given time to fill it. I'm wondering if this is maybe starting to sound familiar. Possibly where we are right now. I believe this. Our churches are social justice statements in and of themselves. Fostering a space of beloved community, which is one of the core missions in our UU faith, a community where marginalized persons and persons of less affluent economic status are welcomed and encouraged to be themselves, to be free to search for their own truth and meaning, is an act of social justice. Why? When a stranger from outside our community, who might be languishing in their own suffering, enters one of our churches, they enter what should be a freely welcoming environment ripe for self-discovery. During what might be a time of distress and anxiety and surprising changes in their lives, as they grow to trust this space with their vulnerability, as they find meaning in our rituals and comfort in the mutual respect of our sacred space, it is possible that they might experience an unanticipated moment of transcendent transformation, which is one of our UU values. A moment that directly leads to a healthier, more sustainable, and purpose-filled new life and self-understanding. They may not have had access to that transformation otherwise. We are offering something very few institutions can. A gift that exists simply because the church exists. And its doors are open to all, free of charge. If we ever lose sight of the fact that this church is for others, the same others we were before we arrived, that I was before I arrived, then we are in danger of forgetting why it is meaningful that we have a church in the first place. It is there because with every new stranger that crosses the border into our beloved communal space, we all become a more beloved community by the power of one. The doors are free and open for others and for ourselves. The open door reminds us who we are and what we have the potential to be. The mission of the church is to engage in an ever-active process of reaching out, of never knowing ourselves as complete, of always being surprised by who might arrive, of accepting the ever-present reality of potential conflict and discomfort, and yet trusting that this is a space where a fuller, more loving, more aware, more open, and thus more just community awaits us, just as we await them. That is the door we are holding open for others and for ourselves. The first 3 services I attended at a Unitarian Universalist church, I wept. I wept for joy. I wept because I felt like I had finally found the conversation I had been looking for. In the fall of 2021, just a few months after that epiphany I mentioned earlier, I signed up to Meadville Lombard Theological School to pursue a Master of Divinity degree and eventual UU ordination. I mean this honestly, I did not know what I was doing when I started. But I have a better idea now of why I'm here, of what I'm seeking, and what I and others might find in one of our spaces. I'm a minister of the open door, through which, among many other things, can be found the potential for transformation. Our mission as a congregation, an association, and a movement is to never stop believing that someone nearby is searching for that open door. Our faith is that they will find it. someday, somehow, as we responsibly and honestly foster the growth of this beloved community and vow, like those before us, to pass our spaces on in good health to the coming generations. Amen, and blessed be.